When I was little, I loved to listen to my grandmother's scary stories. The stories were interesting, about Kikamores, liches, house witches, and witches. My grandmother told me about her life. That all these evil spirits really existed. Of course, when I was a child I believed in all of this, and when I grew up, I began to tell these stories to my children, like fairy tales. Until I had to deal with the whole damn thing myself. My grandmother lived in the Vladimir region, in a small village. My father was born there too, who then moved to Moscow, got an apartment, and stayed there. After my grandmother died, we inherited the village house. I will begin with one story of my grandmother on her behalf. There were also witches living in our village, but they did not practice their witchcraft in our village. One of them lived opposite our house. She would come to my house for tea, and we would sit and talk. She comes to the door, fumbles and sits back down at the table. She went like that several times, she could not step over the threshold of the house. And then she said to me, "I'm tired, Nastasia. Turn the knife with the edge to the other side, and I'll go away." I turned the knife the other way, and she stepped over the threshold at once. And when I was young, there were cases like this. Walking with a guy in the village, telling all sorts of secrets to each other, no one around, and in the morning the whole village knows our conversations. And he and I began to notice a cat running nearby, then the wheel rolling. And my Volodika, take but once took a stick and put in a wheel. The next day we saw our witch walking with a bandaged hand. Or when you come back from work late, and we were walking a long way across the forest road, and you felt someone breathing in your back and coming after you. My father used to tell me that the devil himself got on your shoulders. The main thing is to walk home, and not to turn around, or else you'll get killed. So we go to this village, where all this demonic deed was going on. Our whole family goes on vacation. We decided to celebrate New Year there that winter, and I went to the village 2 days before my family, to clean the house. I stoked the furnace, washed the floor, and was about to go to the store. I looked at the clock at 9 p.m., the stores were still open. I got dressed, went out in the street, it was very dark, and there was only one lantern at the end of the street, and not a soul. I think it's much busier in Moscow at this time. I come up to the store and I see some people with their bags and chatting. Some old ladies were sitting near the store, selling cottage cheese and pickles. I walked past them, and suddenly a granny calls me over. "Aren't you from around here?" I turned around, I thought, now I'll admit that I'm from Moscow, so you're in my back snickering. The Muscovites are just adore the villagers. I told them, I came to see my father, I live in the next village. And I left for the store. When I came back, the old ladies were gone, and the wind was cold. I think it would be quicker to go home. I turned into our dark alley, and I felt someone following me. I heard footsteps. I turned around, no one, I think I imagined it. Suddenly, right next to me a bicycle wheel rolls downhill, hits a tree, and about 5 feet from me falls flat. I was just angry. I think it means that the children there from the slide right into me a wheel, now tell them off. I turn around, no one, darkness, no children's laughter, no rustling, in the distance just a dog barking. Immediately my anger disappeared. It was scary horror, quick steps I ran to the house. I went away from the wheel, probably 10 paces, as I feel some weight on my shoulders, as if my bags were put on my shoulders. My heart was pounding in fear all over my body, in my knees and in my heels. I remembered my grandmother telling me that I shouldn't turn around. I ran into the house, closed the door behind me. And I started to feel nauseous and my stomach turned over in my stomach. The whole night I was throwing up and vomiting. In the morning I went to the bathhouse, for the 15th time, to do my nauseous thing, squirming, and my body was vomiting a lump of hair. It was like a lump of hair, twisted and intertwined, the size of a quail's egg. I burned the hair in the oven. And I never threw up again. After that, I believe all the stories my grandmother told me.